Wow. And now you're going to donate over $1 million?
Yeah. So
you're giving 10% of gross?
Yes, 10% of gross sales. So this is a large portion of our profits. It can be upwards of 50% of our profits. We're still a for-profit company. We're still a profitable company.
Welcome to another episode of Coffeez. Thank you so much, Anton, for jumping on the show today.
Joe, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you. So, Anton, I love the concept of a mission-driven coffee company, a coffee company that does a lot more than just brew coffee, just provide coffee. Let me get just the reasoning model as to why you started a coffee company that's going to donate a significant portion of its profit to this cause.
Yeah. So, it's a few things that were happening in my life personally, and also to what was going on culturally in the economy. So it was right post-COVID 2022 is when I had the late 21. So really 2022 was our first year in business. But it was funny. It was actually 2 weeks after I got married. In September of 2021, I called my wife. I say, I have this idea for a pro-life coffee company. I think it's going to be a great idea. She was definitely caught off guard, but really why it really hit me was I had a passion for coffee. I was working in the political movement, and I kept seeing all these businesses, especially like corporate activism, especially on the left. This pushback on Bud Light, this pushback on Target, this idea that consumers, faith-based consumers, conservatives were being alienated where they spend money, they were giving money to brands that obviously didn't support their values. So I was like, I don't feel good about that. I don't like that. I want to help make a change in that environment. So I love coffee. I was very passionate about supporting the pro-life movement. And so I literally Googled pro-life coffee and nothing came up. And it was the light bulb that sparked the whole idea. Similar to Black Rifle Coffee, this idea that you can have a mission and a purpose behind a coffee company, what they're doing in the Second Amendment space. But there was really no one doing it for, Christians or in the pro-life space. So that's kind of the origins of it. And, I worked in politics for a few years before that. So I had a lot of experience in, nonprofit fundraising, for-profit fundraising for candidates and PACs. And so that kind of led to the idea of it as well. It's like, what if you could provide a really good product and service to customers and actually make a difference with their money that they purchase from you? So, instead of, essentially what I did before, which is raise money for a certain cause, where people would donate, people would buy coffee for a cause and they know exactly where their money's going. So that's why we ended up saying donate back 10% of every sale, which is a large portion of profits, but is the idea of that transparency. Every month we'll share how much we've donated and see how much we can raise for local pregnancy resource centers. So it started with that simple idea. In the first month, we sold $8,000 worth of coffee, and I dropped off a check for $800 to our local pregnancy resource center. And that was the genesis of it.
Wow. And now you're going to donate over $1 million?
Yeah. So
you're giving 10% of gross?
Yes,
or 10% of
10% of gross sales. So this is a large portion of our profits. It can be upwards of 50% of our profits. We're still a for-profit company. We're still a profitable company, but we're incredibly generous. And this donation model is really, it's really what's led to our growth, because consumers feel like their voice and that their dollars is being stewarded in the most transparent way possible, where we were able to really make this impact. So yeah, from that first check of $800, we've now raised over $1 million. And an update for you, we've actually supported over 1,000 pro-life organizations across all 50 states with funding. So we are donating tens of thousands of dollars each month consistently through the sale of our coffee.
Anton, when you give a little bit to God, he just pours it on.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to what you're doing. Like, you're giving 10% of gross. That's insane.
It is.
That's amazing.
On the outside looking in, it's not a really good business practice. When I first had the idea, it just sounded like a good way to give back, kind of like tithing. I wasn't super familiar with, business models at the time. I was just learning it. I thought, oh, that'd be fun. 10% of every sale. And as it got going, it got real for me a few months in, because when I started 7 Weeks Coffee, I was working a full-time job. Handful of months later, I got laid off from that job. And so I was at this crossroads, do I pursue 7 Weeks Coffee full-time or, try to keep it on the side? And that's what it hit me, is like, wow, donating 10% of every sale was a lot of our money. And like, I was very nervous. I was actually considering changing that donation model because I was like, this isn't sustainable. It's, I got to make it profitable. And I remember praying though, I was like, Lord, if you want this to work and you want us to keep this donation model, I said, I will do it. I will do it, but you have to make it profitable so I can, earn income from this, pay for my, family, actually make this a legitimate career and job. And so I felt like kind of made this deal with God, if you will. And ever since then, we've been profitable every single month, every single year, and we've continued to donate 10% of every sale. So I would, on outside looking in, it's not the best business practice on paper, but God has made it work. It works for us, and it's been a way we've been able to, truly make a difference. So it's cool, and now we've raised $1 million, so it's been amazing.
Anton, that's a phenomenal story, and you know what? I'm gonna be buying 7 weeks coffee, and
Thank you.
that's what I'm gonna be using
Yeah,
for my coffee because to steward the money and knowing that 10% is gonna that's incredible.
yeah.
That's just incredible. So where did the name come from? 7 weeks.
Yeah, so I got to give credit to my wife. So when I had the idea for a pro-life coffee company, like I said, it was in September of 2021. I Googled pro-life coffee, nothing comes up. I'm like, I'm starting a pro-life coffee company. So immediately pick up the phone, call my wife, like, I got this idea. She probably thought something was the matter, but I'm like, no, it's cool. I got this business idea. Like I said, it was 2 weeks after we got married, and I was like, I want to start a pro-life coffee company. And then she said, what are you going to call it? And I had no idea. I was like, I'm not sure. And then she asked me the question that inspired her. She said, sometimes moms who are pregnant will say like my little bean, like kind of this term of endearment during pregnancy. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So she asked the question, which was, so when is a baby the size of a coffee bean? I'm like, I don't know. I look it up. At 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean. It's the same time a heartbeat is detected on ultrasound. So our logo is the heartbeat. And that was our name and mission. Donate 10% of every sale to support pregnancy care centers and their ultrasound services so moms can hear their child's heartbeat for the first time. So that's how we got the name and mission of
That is
7
so
Weeks
cool.
Coffee.
I should have known that.
Yeah.
I knew it was something because I've been to 4 ultrasounds for my kids.
Yeah. So
Do you have any kids?
Yeah, we just had our first son 3 months ago. Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations. That's amazing. God bless.
Thank you.
How's it feel to be a dad?
It's awesome. It's, we're obviously pro-life. And so this is like our the real world we're stepping into it as parents. And it's been nothing but a blessing of like living out, raising a child and just seeing his development, actually seeing his development in the womb. And obviously what we're advocating for is protecting the unborn and all the steps from pregnancy to the baby kicking to hearing the heartbeat. You just know that like, wow, this is a life in the womb. This is an unborn child, a human being full of unalienable rights like you and me. And it just has inspired us more that like, their life is not optional, which obviously abortion is, taking that right away and, killing the innocent in the womb. So it's been amazing. And it's been inspirational to our mission to keep going forward.
Incredible. I love the mission. Now, you spent years in DC before launching a business.
Yeah.
What pulled you away from politics
Yeah.
and toward entrepreneurship? Because that's a big risk.
Yeah.
And you went from something totally stable
Right.
to something, totally very, very dangerous for any sort of parent who are a married couple.
Yeah.
Not only did you do something very, very risky, but you also decided to give 10% up of gross profit.
Yeah.
From a very stable position. And it just sounds, I'm an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs are crazy, but I just want to know what was your mind at the time. What was your mindset? What were you thinking? What drove you?
Yeah.
What took you away from politics?
It was definitely a few things. So, politics was good. I learned a lot about marketing, fundraising, but in anything, one of the main reasons I was moved to DC was I was very passionate about biblical values, conservative values, and this idea of like advocating for life and family within Washington, within government, working in fundraising. And you kind of realize everything's a stalemate here, like 24/7. Very little happens, very little change happens. Everything's kind of always tied up. And while it's important to advocate for policies and laws, especially from pro-life policies and laws, you can actually have a bigger impact or a more immediate impact, like what we're doing with 7 Wings Coffee, by just working in the private sector, by using business or, whatever it is to actually help people who are facing, the challenge or contemplating abortion. So it was kind of like a moment of like, politics is fine, but not a lot of change happens sometimes. So it was a little disheartening in that moment. And so that was going on. And then the business side, I hated working 9 to 5 for someone else. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it. Like, I always wanted to work for myself. I love the idea of like stepping into starting a business, wanting to, forge my own path, if you will. And that was definitely behind it where, I was, working in fundraising, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of like, what can I do? What business can I start? How do I like, actually do something on my own? I just like the idea of that risk was fine with me, that, and just like taking ownership of an idea. And it's been awesome because I was always so motivated by using business for faith and advocating for, family values. And so I'm able to really live that out with, 7 Wings Coffee. So, entrepreneurship has been nothing but a blessing and a dream of mine from probably a really young age. But, after working for a few years for other people, I realized that's not what I want to do long term. So,
were you an entrepreneur when you were younger?
I was definitely a tinkerer for sure. Like, I always wanted to figure out different ways to either make money or think of different products. I was always interested in like, Shark Tank and all these things. So there's probably a lot of early indicators that I was always wanting to like do something for myself. Like I was always a contrarian to like why follow the herd, and like I'm very comfortable going in the opposite direction. I don't know. That's always been my inkling, and on top of that, I've always loved politics. Like I used to watch Glenn Beck when I was a kid, 11, 13 years old, and I always used to watch Fox News. And one of my first tastes in politics was working the Republican National Convention when I was in Cleveland, which is where I'm from. And that's where Trump spoke. And I was like very enamored by him and what he was doing and like the MAGA movement in early 2015, like, 2016. So I was like always like interested in politics, very interested in business. So from years ago. So it's funny how, looking back, it seemed to be meant to lead to what I'm doing today.
Incredible. So how old were you when you moved to DC?
I moved right after college. I was 24, 25. So I graduated. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I didn't know, I didn't like my major. So for context, I played college golf. I graduated in 2019. I only knew college golf. I had an injury though, so I couldn't like pursue it professionally. I had a major in supply chain management, which I hated. And so I felt like I was starting from square one after I graduated. And all I knew was I liked politics and, I did like business. I was like, I'll try to find an internship. So I found an internship in DC and, kind of the political movement. And was my first in. And then I got a job in fundraising after that. But there was no like clear plan in front of me of like what I was going to do. I was just kind of, piecing it together as I went along and, taking the opportunity, which, then led to the next. So now I'm here. I've been living in the area for over 5 years. Yeah.
Now, tell me about the moment you realized 7 Wings Coffee is going to be more than just a coffee. It's going to actually be your career.
So it's like anything with like, I think business owners, like externally, you never would say that early on, but internally I was like, this could really catch on. Like this could be a really big deal. I remember the first event. So it's funny. So I had the idea for 7 Wings Coffee in September. I started in November. I got like 2,000 bags of coffee, made for us through a private label. And we went to this event in DC. So during the March for Life, which is in January, it's a big pro-life weekend. I was like, oh, we should get a booth at this big conference there. It's all these pro-lifers. And it was $2,000 for a booth. And I literally put $3,500 in a business account. And so and then I spent some of it. So I didn't even have the $2,000 to cover the sponsorship. And I emailed them. I said, hey, if you just let us donate back the 10% of every sale to your organization, would you let us have a booth? And they said, sure. So I go down there, get some couple t-shirts made. My wife comes and I bring a friend, give him a t-shirt. So we kind of look like a company, but really it's just 3 of us with t-shirts. and we start selling coffee, and it just, people are like enamored by it. Like, I remember one person was crying, like, this is the coolest thing ever. I love the name. I love the mission. Where's this been? How long have you guys been around? I'm like, it's been 2 months and we're just getting started. But like that initial reaction from like, really the first customers that ever heard of it, was awesome. And then I was like, okay, there's like something here. Like, this is meeting a need. People are resonating with what we want to do as a brand and a company. And it really just kind of took off from there, honestly. Like, it's funny, like, good products and good names that like really serve a mission. And, it kind of is self-explanatory when a customer sees it. And that's the experience we had. So I think early on, I knew it could be something, but if you said we, raise $1 million in our first 4 years of business, I would not believe that. So it's definitely surpassed what I thought.
Yeah. So what has been the biggest catalyst to its growth? Has it been for marketing? Has it been the mission? Has it been social media marketing? Has it been word of mouth? Like, how did you get to $10 million in sales on just coffee beans in such a short period of time?
Yeah, it's definitely a multifaceted approach. So a few things. We started digital marketing, especially like Facebook ads, and just, very like organic UGC, like moms with the coffee, telling the story of why they enjoy it, why they support the mission, showing the impact of where we're donating. And our digital marketing really took off from there. So that's been a huge catalyst. We've had some great partnerships with podcast hosts, and that's been a very big brand recognition and also growth in terms of, sponsorships. But yeah, there's that third element of word of mouth where, we'll go through our reviews and people are like, I'm telling everyone, I'm sharing it at our Bible study, I'm telling our friends. It's like, that is a true organic growth of the company that has led to a lot of this rapid success. And, and then on top of that, we'll do 10 conferences a year where we're there selling coffee. We're meeting with, thousands of people over the course of these conferences. So it's really multifaceted. But, everything kind of plays in, but because we've had a great digital advertising program over the last few years and then word of mouth, you kind of get this like compounding effect, where we've kind of established ourselves as, now America's pro-life coffee company, really probably the largest faith-based coffee company in the country. And that's what we want to be. Like, we want to be America's like faith-based Christian coffee company where we can really stand for pro-life and Christian values and have a very huge impact, a tangible impact, supporting life. So I think people just resonate with that.
I love it. I try to be a faith-based leader and a servant of the Lord in everything that I do.
Not bad.
And when I hear a company that starts with a cause before a product, it's like, it really touches me. So whatever I can do to push your brand, I'm going to do it.
Thank you.
Now, how did you change the way you built your brand when you started with just a cause?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even start with a product.
Well, we had to figure that out. I found a coffee supplier right away. And one of the interesting things is I was very interested into coffee sourcing, studying coffee. And this is actually something I want to highlight is like, you can find very cheap coffee and just in a general sense, cheap products and slap your label / mission on top of it. And you'll get a bunch of people to buy it for the first time. But you're not going to have enduring success or long-term growth if people won't buy it again because they like the product. So on a coffee level, our product is really second to none. It's all directly sourced from farmers, which is a huge benefit. It means we don't buy through a middleman. It means we know every farmer or co-op that grows our coffee. We pay them transparent wages, which is 3 times a fair trade requires. So we actually get to see the impact we have on the farmer level. It leads to exceptional quality, traceability, and it's the highest, some of the highest specialty grade coffee you can get. So in terms of sourcing, it's direct trade, which is the best you can get. Specialty grade, which is the highest quality coffee you can get. We also lab test to make sure it's mold free. So it's very clean coffee. It's also pesticide free, organically farmed. So on a coffee level, we're much better than anything out there in terms of competitors. So that's been awesome because so many people.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, because so many people will buy a product. This is like, I love telling, their business owners, it's like, you have to have a product that will win on its own. Like on its own, you have to have something that will compete with market because people aren't going to give you their hard-earned dollars unless they know it's a good product. Like, we're not a charity. We are a for-profit entity that wants to provide a better product on its own and also, share this incredible mission. So it's a twofold approach. Customers are buying it for the first time for the mission. They're buying it again because they love the coffee. And that's really important to us because we don't take their money for granted. We want to provide them with the best coffee experience possible. And I that's what we've been doing.
That that's great to hear. Now, what does w- what's donating? You've donated to 700 pregnancy care centers. How do you choose where to give,
Mhm.
and how do you make the impact for you feel personal?
Well, actually, so it's funny. It's actually been 1,000 centers now. So, was
Wow.
grown rapidly. So it's pretty simple. There's around probably 2,500 to 3,000 pro-life organizations in the U.S. They're all local, meaning they're local to your town or, county or, city. They serve a local community. So our biggest thing is donating locally. We want dollars to go into the hands of local organizations who know how, because they know how to use the money the best. So we have a program, simple put, if you're a pro-life organization, you sign up, we vet you, obviously making sure you're a legitimate pro-life organization. You have the same pro-life worldview that we support. And then once you're vetted, you get into an enrollment sheet, and it's pretty simple. You're pro-life. We want to support your work. You have a pro-life worldview. You just enroll in a month, and we'll just send you a check during that month. So each month, we're donating between 20 and 40 pregnancy resource centers or pro-life organizations, and they're just getting a check from a portion of our sales, so they can enroll multiple times a year. They can receive funding from us. We also do a lot of donations with free coffee for their events. We send them coffee for galas and things like that, donor gifts, and so we try to be like this resource for pro-life organizations. So yeah, and for us, we every month I go in and we just allocate our funds from the dollars we raise that month to these organizations, and then we go out and process these donations and send them the money. And that's the most personal part. Is like we literally get to see each and every center every month receive a portion of our sales through a check. So it's the best. It's the best part of the month.
I love that. Now I want to ask you a question, and
Damn.
you don't have to answer. You could, but have you had a moment in time where you really felt like this is incredibly challenging? And I know we kind of alluded to it
Mhm.
before, where it was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but like where you really just like had to put your faith in God
Yeah.
to get through that moment because you built a mission based business where you're giving away half your profit. Like, when was it? When was that breaking point for you?
There's, I cannot tell you how many times the prayer has been, Lord, just protect me, protect this company, and just help me make the right decision. Because there's so many times there's decisions that come up that you have no idea what to do. There's been multiple times where I almost sold a portion of the company to investors. That got very close a few different times, and I'm very happy that I never did that and was able to just keep ownership of the company. That was a very difficult time. I've had issues where people have tried to rip us off or copy us from a supplier, and it's very unethical, and that was very harmful and hurtful personally.
Copy you with mission based
Yeah, it's
products like
happened
this?
before. Yeah, it's sad. You see people kind of like get too inspired by what your mission and people and that was very hurtful. And it's tough because you have to build up a resiliency, and that's what I've kind of done more and more, because it's so easy to take it personally. But what I've come to realize is if you stay pure in your mission and what you're trying to accomplish, I can let the results fall as they may. We're not trying to copy anyone. I started this with the intention to fund the pro life movement. No one was doing this through coffee. It was a new idea. If people want to copy us, so be it. But there's something to be said when you're not trying to copy anyone. You're just trying to follow what God put on your heart, and that's what we're trying to do.
Love that. Now, blending faith and business,
Okay.
you're doing that in a big and bold way.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for someone trying to build something aligned with their faith?
Yeah, I think it's important for more entrepreneurs. One, we need more Christian spiritual entrepreneurs. The idea that so this has kind of been my thought over the last few months. There's been a misnomer that ministry has to take place in the four walls of the church or within nonprofit, when business and for-profit entities can have the biggest impact for what you believe. And so we need more entrepreneurs. We need more entrepreneurs to live out their faith in their business. I want people to understand that they can have influence and that they can have bias towards their values and beliefs. For me, it's Christian values and Christian beliefs. And I just want to see more people like live those out. It doesn't have to be in the same capacity as like we're doing, which is like outwardly, explicitly
Christian
pro-life,
based. Yeah.
Christian based. That you could have an HVAC company, but you as an owner, as a Christian, you should have influence over the people that work for you. You should have an influence over the people you interact with and your customers. Like you can have an area of influence, and it just might be a different way than what we're doing. So my advice is that we need more people to do it.
I love that. And I try to live out my Christian principles. But when you have a big company,
Right.
there's like boards, and you got to like just kind of like you don't put your Christian values aside, but you do have to accommodate non-believers.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So you got to tread lightly. The bigger the company, the more lightly you tread. And I wonder, who knows? Maybe you become Starbucks, and then you're like, and there's because now we're seeing a bigger shift towards faith, I feel like, than ever.
Right.
Especially after what happened with Charlie Kirk.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm Egyptian, I'm Christian, and we come from the Church of the Martyrs. And I was saying this to someone else, like, Charlie Kirk was the first American martyr. I come from a lineage of Coptic martyrs, or churches painted in purple and red for the blood of the martyrs. We're going to see a bigger shift towards faith in the next couple of years. And what you're going to see is more martyrdom for that in the next couple of years, much more. So this is the time for those who are faith-based to really step up.
Yeah.
This is the time for entrepreneurs to step up. This is the time for, even like entertainment companies to step up and step out of the wickedness of all the content we've been consuming and all the different, insane, leftist movements, that extreme left movements that have been really toxifying this generation, and the kids that have been just confused.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree that more, because like, and especially from the business perspective, there's been so many businesses that on the other side have taken like an activist stance in the economy. And so it's like, well, why can't we take the same like activist stance and advocate for what we believe? And like what you said, with Charlie Kirk is so inspirational to me and what he did. And like, it's okay to be bold. It's okay to be loud. And like, we need more of that, not less.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're being bold, you're being loud, and who knows, if you get the crown of heaven and get shot just like Charlie, you get that instant sainthood,
And I hope that doesn't happen, but it is true.
I hope it does happen to me, but I don't have a job to do that. Like, I don't get the benefit of any way to do that right now.
Right.
Like, I can't talk about it through mortgage. Maybe through podcasting, I'll piss off enough people.
There you go.
Now, what's something about the coffee business you didn't expect to love, or didn't expect to be so hard?
What's come to be something most interesting is just learning the supply chain. I got to visit one of our farms we work with in Dominican Republic earlier this year, and it's just really cool to see the impact behind like the coffee, like the story behind the coffee. Like, coffee is the second largest commodity in the world outside of oil, like shipped. It's like the biggest, second biggest commodity, transported around the world, which is coffee. It's such a huge industry, and it's grown all over the world. And most times farmers are paid pennies on the dollar. And so for us, by working directly with farmers, we're able to have like a true impact with them and like growing their local communities, because coffee obviously comes from most third world countries where people, live on very little and don't have, good accommodations. And what's awesome is like our coffee helps like reverse that trend. Like, we're able to like truly, give, life back to the farmers we work with. So it's really cool to see that. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, coffee is a painstakingly tough industry, from a growth to transportation to roasting. And but everyone relies on it. So it's been fun to learn.
That's incredible. Now, a couple last goals I have for you. A couple last questions I have for you. One of them is about goals.
Yeah.
It's a 3-pronged question. What's a personal goal that you have for yourself? A family goal. I know you just had your brand new, it was a son or daughter?
A son, yeah.
A brand new son. Again, congratulations. A family goal, and then a business goal that you have for 7 Weeks Coffee.
Yeah, personally, I'm not the best with goals. I have to be honest with you. I'm more of a process guy, but I've been trying to challenge myself with more goals, personal goals. So it's actually funny. Like I was saying before, when I grew up as a playing competitive golf my whole life. Over the last, since I played in college, I know the last 5 years I really haven't played competitively anymore. So personal goal, I'm trying to get back into like competitive golf. I want to play at a high level in terms of, amateur golf, and get back into competing again. I love competition. It's probably why I love business. I love, I hate losing more than you like winning. It's kind of like that old adage. So playing, competitively again is something I really want to do. Family goal, I'm very blessed where we're at. We have a beautiful family, baby's healthy. So the prayer is that we continue to be a happy, healthy family. And then a business goal, I think we're just getting started with our company in terms of like opportunity. $1 million donated is great. I think we have tens of millions of dollars to donate to go.
I love that. And I'm going to do my small, tiny little part to continue to advocate for you guys. Now, my last question. When you're in front of the pearly gates, what do you think God's going to tell you?
I hope he says, well done, staying true to the mission from start to finish. That's the biggest thing I could hope. It's so easy to start something well-intentioned. I think it's really hard to finish it well-intentioned. And because, as things grow, things change, numbers get bigger, dollars get bigger. And how do you actually continue with the same, authenticity and ethics behind it is the biggest challenge. And so, God willing, we're still doing that. And, when this is all said and done, we're still doing that.
Anton, you've been an absolute blessing to have on the show. If people want to connect with you, or 7 Weeks, how do they find you?
Yeah, 7weekscoffee.com. That's where our website is. Feel free to look it up. Get some good coffee this Christmas season.
Guys, make sure you connect with him, buy that coffee, and know that you are being a good steward buying that coffee, because that money is going to help thousands of people. God bless you. God bless your mission. I hope you hit every single one of your goals. Thank you for jumping on the show today.
Thank you for having me.